Maria, a single mother, drove along the narrow forest road, her young son Leo sitting quietly in the back seat. The city was far behind them, and for a while only the sound of the car engine and the wind through the trees filled the air. Maria had rented the old cabin to give Leo a chance to play outside and for herself to rest. She wanted a quiet weekend, away from the noise and rush of their daily life. The cabin appeared at the end of a long driveway. Its wooden walls were gray from age and the roof had patches of moss. The windows were dusty and the front porch sagged slightly. Maria felt a small chill. She had expected a cozy retreat, but the cabin looked almost abandoned. She told herself it was part of the experience and she was determined to make the best of it. Leo jumped out of the car and ran to the porch, calling out to Maria to hurry. She smiled at his excitement and carried their bags inside. The interior smelled of old wood and dust, but the rooms were surprisingly intact. A small kitchen sat to the left, a living room with a stone fireplace in the center, and 2 bedrooms to the right. Sunlight filtered through the dusty windows, casting golden patches on the wooden floor. Maria unpacked their clothes and set the small travel bags near the bedrooms. She tried to make the cabin feel more like home by opening the windows to let in fresh air. Leo ran around examining every corner, his small hands touching the worn wooden furniture and peeking behind the curtains. Once inside, Maria decided to explore the backyard. The forest surrounded the cabin closely, and the trees created tall shadows as the sun began to set. The air smelled fresh, mixed with the scent of pine and earth. As she walked along the edge of the yard, she noticed something unusual. Partially hidden by overgrown shrubs and leaves, there was a metal trapdoor in the ground. The cover looked old and heavy. Maria bent down and brushed away the dirt and leaves. The handle was cold and stiff, and she could feel a slight vibration when she touched it. Leo came closer and asked if it was a treasure chest. Maria laughed softly but felt a strange feeling in her stomach. She told him it was probably just an old storage space and that they would check it later. She did not want to alarm him, but her curiosity was already growing. Back inside the cabin, Maria started a small fire in the fireplace. The flames flickered and cast shadows on the walls. She unpacked their supplies, preparing for the evening. Leo sat on the rug, playing quietly with his small wooden cars while Maria made a simple dinner on the stove. As night fell, the wind blew through the trees and made the cabin creak. Maria checked on Leo, who was already asleep, and then sat by the fire. She stared at the trapdoor in her mind. Something about it did not feel normal. She could not explain it, but it seemed as if the door had been hidden on purpose, as though it was meant to be discovered only by someone who was curious. Maria felt a mixture of fear and excitement. She had hoped for a peaceful weekend, but now she wondered what secrets the cabin held. She decided that in the morning she would investigate the trapdoor more carefully. She did not know what she would find, but she sensed that this cabin might have a story of its own. With the fire warm and the night quiet, Maria tried to relax. Yet the feeling lingered that this weekend would not be like any other. The cabin, with its old walls and hidden trapdoor, had already started to change the rhythm of their lives. The morning sun filtered through the trees, casting soft light across the cabin. Maria awoke early and listened to the sounds of the forest. Birds sang in the distance and the wind moved gently through the leaves. Leo was still asleep and for a moment she felt calm. But the memory of the trapdoor outside pulled at her thoughts. After a quick breakfast, Maria told Leo to play near the porch while she went to examine the hidden door. She carried a small flashlight and wore gloves to protect her hands. The cold morning air made her shiver as she stepped toward the back of the cabin. The trapdoor was just as she remembered. Its metal handle was dark and old, and the wood around it had grown damp from the night dew. Maria knelt and pressed her hands against the trapdoor. She could feel the weight of the metal beneath her palms. Taking a deep breath, she lifted the handle. It was stiff at first, but with careful effort, the door creaked open. A thin, cool breeze rose from the opening, carrying a strange smell of earth and metal. The hole led down into darkness. Maria paused. Fear tugged at her, but curiosity was stronger. She whispered to herself that it might be a small cellar or storage space, nothing dangerous. She took a few steps down a narrow wooden ladder, her flashlight cutting a circle of light in the darkness. The space below was larger than she expected. The walls were made of old concrete, and the floor was dusty and uneven. As Maria looked around, she noticed that the room extended farther than the ladder suggested. Her flashlight revealed a narrow hallway leading deeper underground. Old shelves lined the walls filled with boxes and jars covered in dust. Some of the boxes had faded labels, but none of them made any sense. The air was cold and smelled faintly of iron. Maria moved carefully, her footsteps echoing softly. She felt a strange excitement mixed with caution. She wondered why this underground space had been hidden. Who had built it and what had they kept here? She pushed open one of the boxes and found old tools and papers. Some of the papers were maps of the forest around the cabin. Others had notes in a language she did not recognize. Suddenly, a small noise made Maria jump. She turned, shining her flashlight toward the source. A rat scurried across the floor and disappeared into a hole in the wall. Maria let out a quiet laugh, feeling slightly embarrassed for being startled. She reminded herself to stay focused. There was more to explore. She followed the hallway and discovered a heavy metal door at the end. It had a round handle like a vault. Maria's heart raced as she reached for it. The metal was cold and smooth under her fingers. She took a deep breath and pushed it open. The room beyond was large and empty, except for a few wooden crates stacked in the corners. The walls had strange markings carved carefully. Maria moved closer to examine the markings. They looked like symbols, possibly warnings or instructions. She could not understand their meaning, but they gave her an uneasy feeling. The air in the room was heavier, as if the space itself was waiting. She heard a soft thump behind her. Maria spun around, shining her flashlight. There was nothing, only the shadows dancing on the walls. She realized the sound came from the ladder above. Leo had climbed down quietly, curious about what she was doing. "Maria, what is this place?" Leo asked, his small voice filled with wonder and a little fear. Maria knelt and hugged him gently. "I don't know yet, Leo, but it looks like we have discovered something very old. Something that someone wanted to keep hidden." Leo's eyes widened. "Is it safe?" Maria smiled, trying to hide her own nervousness. "I think so. We will be careful, but we need to learn more about this place." They stayed together in the room for a few minutes, exploring the crates and symbols. Maria felt a strange connection to the hidden bunker, as if it was waiting for someone like her to find it. She decided they would return later with more tools and maybe some help. For now, they would leave the door slightly open and go back upstairs to the cabin. As they climbed the ladder, Maria could not shake the feeling that this hidden space was more than just an old storage area. The cabin was no longer just a quiet retreat. It held secrets, and Maria was determined to uncover them. After their first visit to the hidden bunker, Maria could not stop thinking about it. The strange symbols and the cold, quiet atmosphere had left her both curious and uneasy. She wanted to understand why the space had been built and what it had been used for. Leo, on the other hand, was eager to explore again, treating it like a secret adventure. That morning, Maria prepared a small backpack with a flashlight, a notebook, and a few snacks. She wanted to take notes this time, to remember every detail. Leo held her hand tightly as they walked toward the trapdoor. The sunlight filtered through the trees and the forest seemed calmer than the night before. But Maria could not shake the feeling that the cabin was different now, as if it had noticed their curiosity. The trapdoor was slightly open, just as Maria had left it. She lifted it fully and climbed down carefully with Leo following behind. The air in the bunker was colder than before, and a faint smell of damp earth greeted them. Maria shined her flashlight down the hallway, noticing that dust on the floor had been disturbed. Someone or something had moved here recently. "Maria, look," Leo whispered, pointing at small footprints on the dusty floor. They were tiny, like the tracks of a small animal, but they were too deep and spaced in a way that suggested a child had walked here. Maria frowned. She had checked the cabin and the yard carefully, and there was no sign of anyone outside. They moved down the hallway, stepping lightly. Maria examined the boxes and crates they had seen the day before. One crate had been opened and its contents slightly shifted. She wondered if someone had returned to this place without her knowing. The idea made her uneasy, but she also felt a strange thrill. The bunker had secrets, and maybe those secrets were not completely forgotten. Maria noticed a small table in a corner that had not been there before. On it lay a notebook, yellowed with age, and a small rusty key. She picked up the notebook carefully. The pages were filled with handwriting, small and neat, describing times and dates she could not recognize. Some pages contained drawings of the forest, the cabin, and paths leading to places she had never seen. Leo leaned over her shoulder. "What is that, Maria?" It looks like someone kept a record of this place, Maria said quietly. I think they wanted to remember everything that happened here. She flipped through the pages, feeling the weight of history in her hands. Some pages had symbols similar to the ones carved into the walls. They seemed to tell a story she could not fully understand yet. Maria set the notebook down and picked up the small key. She examined the crates and doors again, looking for a lock it might open. She tried it on one of the metal doors at the end of the hallway. With a small turn, the lock clicked open. The door swung inward, revealing a new room they had not seen before. Inside, the room was empty except for a single shelf on the far wall. On the shelf were glass jars, each filled with a strange powder or liquid. Maria did not recognize any of the substances, but the sight made her realize that this bunker was more than just storage. Someone had been conducting experiments or keeping things hidden very carefully. Leo's eyes grew wide. Is this magic, Maria? Maria smiled at him, though her mind was racing. I do not think it is magic, Leo, but it is very unusual. We must be careful and try to understand it. She took notes in her notebook, writing down details about the jars and the symbols on the walls. As they explored, Maria felt the walls closing in slightly. The bunker was quiet, but the silence was heavy, almost alive. Every sound of their footsteps echoed like a warning. She knew that they had found something important, something that had been hidden for a long time. Finally, Maria decided it was time to return to the cabin. She carefully closed the new room and replaced the trapdoor, making sure it looked untouched. She held Leo's hand as they climbed back into the sunlight. The forest around the cabin seemed brighter, but the mystery of the bunker weighed on her mind. Maria knew that they had only scratched the surface. The footprints, the notebook, and the strange jars suggested that someone had been here recently, or that the past of this place was far more complicated than she had imagined. She made a quiet promise to herself. She would uncover the truth no matter how long it took. The next morning, Maria awoke to the sound of birds and the soft rustle of leaves. She felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. The events of the previous day had left her restless. The hidden bunker was more than just an old storage space. The footprints, the notebook, and the strange jars suggested that this place had a story, one that someone had wanted to hide carefully. Maria made a quick breakfast for Leo. He ate quietly, glancing occasionally at the forest. Do you think someone is still down there? He asked, his voice small. Maria thought for a moment. I do not know, Leo, but we need to be careful. We cannot assume it is empty. There might be clues that tell us who was here. After breakfast, Maria grabbed her backpack with a flashlight, notebook, and a small camera. She wanted to document everything this time. Leo followed her closely, holding her hand. They stepped outside into the cool morning air. The forest seemed alive, the sun spilling golden light through the tall trees. But Maria could not shake the feeling that they were being watched. At the back of the cabin, the trapdoor stood partially hidden by leaves. Maria lifted it and climbed down carefully. The air in the bunker was colder than the morning above. Dust floated in the weak beams of sunlight from their flashlight. Maria noticed immediately that some things had changed. The hallway floor had faint footprints again. These were different from the ones yesterday, smaller, lighter, and fresher. Maria frowned. Leo, look. Someone else has been here since yesterday. Leo's eyes widened. Really, who could it be? Maria shook her head. I do not know yet, but we will be very careful. She took a deep breath and led him down the hallway. The metal door they had opened before was still slightly ajar. Maria shined her flashlight into the room. The crates and jars remained, but the arrangement had changed slightly. Some jars were closer to the edge of the shelf, and a small notebook that had not been there yesterday now lay on the floor. Maria picked up the notebook carefully. Its pages were blank except for a single line written in careful handwriting. Do not go further. Maria's stomach tightened. Someone had left a warning. She closed the notebook and set it on the shelf. The warning did not frighten her. It made her more determined. Whoever had been here wanted to keep the secrets of this place hidden, but Maria was not going to turn back. They moved further down the hallway. Maria's flashlight revealed faint scratch marks on the walls like someone had been climbing or searching for something. The air felt heavier, almost charged with energy. Maria held Leo's hand tightly. She realized that this bunker had not been forgotten completely. Someone had returned or someone had been watching it from above. At the end of the hallway, the metal door led to the largest room in the bunker. Maria opened it slowly. The jars and crates inside were untouched, but the air smelled slightly different, like metal and earth mixed together. Maria crouched to examine the floor and noticed a series of footprints leading toward a small corner. She shined her flashlight there and froze. There, pressed into the dust, was the outline of a small handprint. It looked fresh. Maria felt a chill. Whoever had been here had been very careful, but not careful enough to hide all signs of their presence. Leo whispered, "Maria, I think someone is still here." Maria nodded slowly. "Maybe, or maybe they just came recently and left. We must stay alert." She took out her notebook and wrote down everything she observed. The footprints, the handprint, and the warning in the small notebook were clues. She felt a mixture of fear and excitement. This was no longer a simple discovery. The bunker had life, and it was trying to tell her something. After a long inspection, Maria decided it was time to leave. She carefully closed the metal doors and replaced the trapdoor. As they climbed back into the sunlight, Maria looked at the forest around the cabin. The trees swayed gently, but she could not shake the feeling that eyes were watching them. She knew that their quiet retreat was over. The bunker had awakened a mystery, and Maria understood that they were now part of it. Someone had been there recently, and Maria needed to uncover the truth before the forest and the cabin kept its secrets forever. Maria could not sleep that night. The hidden bunker and the fresh signs of someone having been there weighed on her mind. Every creak of the cabin and rustle of leaves outside made her heart race. She thought about the handprints and footprints they had seen, and the small notebook warning them not to go further. Whoever had been here wanted the secrets kept hidden, but Maria felt even more determined. The next morning, she made a plan. She would explore the bunker more carefully, taking notes and documenting everything. Leo was eager to help, though Maria reminded him to stay close and be careful. The air was crisp as they stepped outside. The sun made the dew on the grass sparkle like tiny diamonds. Maria felt a strange mixture of calm and tension. The forest was beautiful, but she knew it hid more than just trees and animals. At the back of the cabin, the trapdoor waited. Maria lifted it and climbed down first, with Leo following behind. The bunker smelled colder and earthier than before. Dust covered the floor, but she immediately noticed more footprints. They were small and light, leading deeper into the rooms they had explored. Maria carefully followed them, shining her flashlight on every corner. The first metal door opened easily. Inside, the jars and crates were mostly in place, but the small notebook with the warning had disappeared. Maria frowned. Someone had taken it, and that meant someone else had been in the bunker since their last visit. She examined the crates more closely, opening a few carefully. Inside were old tools, maps, and strange containers filled with powders and liquids. Nothing looked dangerous at first, but Maria felt a thrill of discovery. She took photographs of the jars and symbols on the walls. Each mark seemed deliberate, as if someone wanted to leave a message for the future. Maria noticed a few pages of a torn notebook stuck under a crate. She picked them up gently. The pages had small sketches of the cabin and forest, with lines showing hidden paths and markings near the trapdoor. Maria realized that the person who had been here long ago knew every corner of the land. Leo pointed to a corner. "Maria, look." More footprints. Maria moved toward him. These footprints were different from the others. They led to a small wall panel she had never noticed before. It looked like part of the wall, but had a faint outline of a rectangle. Maria pressed her hand against it and realized it was a hidden door. She pushed gently, and the panel slid open with a soft squeak. Behind it was a tiny room, almost like a small storage closet. Inside were papers, a few old photographs, and a box tied with string. Maria carefully opened the box. Inside were more notes and a small key. The papers described a man and a woman who had built the bunker many years ago. They wrote about storing important items and keeping them safe. The photographs showed the cabin long before Maria had arrived. It looked newer, with the forest less dense around it. Maria flipped through the notes, realizing that the people who had built this place had hidden things for a reason. Perhaps they feared someone would come looking for them. Leo leaned over her shoulder. "Do you think they are still here?" Maria shook her head slowly. "I do not think so, Leo, but someone might have visited recently. That is why the footprints and handprints are here. We need to be careful and pay attention to every clue." She packed the papers and the key carefully into her backpack. Maria felt the excitement of discovery mixed with a little fear. The bunker was no longer just a hidden place. It was a puzzle, with pieces left by people who had lived here long ago. Someone had wanted to hide secrets, and Maria was slowly beginning to understand them. Before leaving the bunker, Maria made sure the hidden panel was closed. She wanted to protect the space until she could return. Climbing back into the sunlight, she felt the forest around the cabin was quieter than before. But the mystery had changed her. She knew she could not ignore the hidden bunker. The clues of the past were calling her, and she was determined to find out the full story. Maria could hardly wait until morning. The hidden bunker had become the center of her thoughts, and she felt a mix of curiosity and caution. Leo was excited as well. He had not stopped talking about the tiny room behind the hidden panel and the notes and photographs they had found. Maria knew that this day would bring more answers, or at least more clues. After a quick breakfast, Maria packed a small bag with a flashlight, notebook, and camera. She reminded Leo to stay close and not touch anything without asking. Together, they walked toward the trapdoor at the back of the cabin. The forest was quiet except for the chirping of birds. The morning sunlight made the leaves glow in shades of green and gold. The trapdoor lifted easily. Maria descended first and Leo followed. The air inside the bunker was cool, carrying the faint scent of earth and old wood. Maria noticed that the footprints from the previous day were still visible but slightly faded. They carefully moved down the hallway toward the rooms they had explored before. The metal door led them to the room with the crates and jars. Maria examined the box of papers and photographs again. She spread them out on the floor, studying each one. One of the notes mentioned a man named Samuel and a woman named Clara. They had built the bunker to protect certain items they considered important. The note spoke about safety, secrecy, and a fear that someone might try to find the hidden space. Maria realized that the bunker had been a safe place for them, but she could not understand exactly what they had been hiding. The photographs gave small hints. One showed the cabin as it was decades ago, with a small garden and open forest around it. Another showed Samuel and Clara standing outside the trapdoor, smiling at the camera. Maria could sense their care and attention to detail. She noticed one note in particular that described a map of tunnels and hidden compartments inside the bunker. According to the note, certain doors were meant to be discovered only by someone who was brave and careful. Maria's heart raced as she thought about the hidden panel and the tiny room they had found. This bunker had been designed as a puzzle, and she and Leo were slowly solving it. Leo pointed at one of the photographs. "Maria, look! That tree in the picture is still here." Maria looked closely. Indeed, one of the trees shown in the photograph had grown large but still stood near the edge of the cabin yard. She realized that Samuel and Clara had known this land very well. Every tree, every path, and even the hidden trapdoor had been chosen carefully. They moved toward the hidden panel again. Maria pressed it and it opened easily. Inside the small room, she examined the notes more carefully. One of the papers had instructions for using the small key they had found in the box. According to the note, the key opened a crate in the larger room that contained something valuable and important for Samuel and Clara. Maria returned to the larger room and located the crate mentioned in the note. She used the key and the lock clicked open. Inside was a small metal box, heavy and well made. Maria lifted it carefully and opened the lid. Inside were old documents, a few photographs, and a small, intricately carved object. It looked like a symbol, perhaps a token of protection or memory. Maria felt a shiver of wonder. This object was not dangerous, but it was clearly significant. The documents explained that Samuel and Clara had hidden these things to preserve their family history and protect them from anyone who might misuse them. Maria realized that the bunker was not meant for treasure or danger. It was a place of care and memory. Leo looked at Maria. "Maria, they wanted someone to find this?" Maria nodded. "Yes, Leo. They wanted someone who could be careful and responsible to discover their secret. They wanted their story to be remembered." She carefully placed the objects back into the crate and closed the lock. Maria felt a deep respect for Samuel and Clara. They had built the bunker not for themselves, but to protect what they loved. Maria knew that she and Leo had been chosen in a way to continue their story and to honor the secrets of the cabin. Maria and Leo spent the morning outside trying to enjoy the calm of the forest. Birds sang in the trees and sunlight danced on the leaves. But Maria's mind remained focused on the bunker. The discoveries they had made, the hidden panel, the small room, and the important objects, had filled her with curiosity and a sense of responsibility. She wanted to understand everything Samuel and Clara had left behind. As they walked near the edge of the yard, Maria noticed a figure moving between the trees. A man appeared carrying a small backpack. He was careful, almost cautious, but he seemed to be observing the cabin closely. Maria felt a chill. The forest had always seemed empty, and now there was someone else here. "Leo, stay close to me," Maria whispered. She moved slowly toward the cabin, keeping her eyes on the stranger. The man stopped near the cabin, looking around, and then crouched behind a tree. Maria's heart raced. She did not recognize him, and she could not tell whether he was dangerous or simply curious. Leo tugged at her sleeve. "Maria, who is that?" "I do not know, Leo, but we need to stay calm and watch carefully," Maria said. She grabbed a small flashlight from the bag just in case, and gestured for Leo to follow her inside the cabin. Once inside, Maria closed the windows and doors quietly. She peered through a curtain at the man. He seemed to be inspecting the cabin, his movements careful and deliberate. Maria tried to think. Why would someone come here now? Could he have known about the bunker? The thought made her nervous. Maria decided to make a plan. She whispered to Leo that they would wait and watch, but they would not approach the man unless necessary. Leo nodded, his eyes wide but attentive. Together they observed as the man moved toward the back of the cabin. He knelt near the trapdoor, examining the ground. Maria's stomach tightened. He seemed to know where the hidden entrance was. After a few tense minutes, the man stood and moved back toward the trees, as if deciding not to enter. Maria let out a quiet sigh of relief, but knew that their time alone in the cabin was no longer guaranteed. Whoever he was, he had found them. The bunker's secrets might be at risk. Maria turned to Leo. "We need to be careful. Someone else knows about the bunker, and we do not know their intentions. For now, we will wait until they leave." They stayed inside, watching the forest. The man moved slowly, never leaving the edge of the tree line. Maria realized that he might have been observing them for some time, trying to see if the cabin was empty. She felt a mix of fear and determination. She could not let the discoveries in the bunker be lost or misused. After what felt like an hour, the man finally walked away, disappearing between the trees. Maria waited a few more minutes to make sure he was gone. She opened the door cautiously and looked around. The forest seemed empty again, peaceful but full of quiet shadows. Maria knew that the next step was to secure the bunker. She needed to make sure the hidden panel and the important objects were safe. She took Leo's hand and led him down the ladder. Inside the bunker, Maria checked each room carefully. The crates were intact and the small metal box was still secure. She made a note to cover the footprints and signs of their recent visitor. Leo looked around, worried. "Maria, will they come back?" Maria knelt and hugged him. "Maybe, but we will be ready. We know the bunker, and we understand the secrets. We will protect them." They spent the rest of the day cleaning and organizing the bunker. Maria carefully documented everything, writing down details of the objects, the notes, and the hidden compartments. She realized that the bunker was not only a place of memory and protection, but also a place that required vigilance. Whoever else had been nearby would not be able to misuse it if they stayed careful. As night fell, Maria and Leo returned to the cabin. The forest was quiet, the wind gentle through the trees. Maria felt a sense of pride. They had faced the uncertainty together and had learned that the bunker's secrets were precious. She knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges, but for now, they were ready to protect the hidden history of the cabin. The next morning, Maria awoke with a sense of purpose. The events of the past days had made it clear that the bunker held more than objects and notes. It carried a story that needed to be understood fully. Leo, excited but careful, helped her pack a small backpack with flashlight, notebook, and gloves. Today, Maria decided, they would uncover the final secret. At the back of the cabin, the trapdoor lay partially hidden under leaves. Maria lifted it and descended first, with Leo following close behind. The air in the bunker was cool and quiet, carrying the familiar scent of earth and old wood. Maria immediately noticed that the floor was clean and undisturbed. Whoever had been here recently had not returned. That gave her a small sense of relief. They moved through the hallway toward the large room with the crates and jars. Maria examined the objects again, checking the small metal box and the notes. She felt that Samuel and Clara had left something they intended only for a careful and responsible person to discover. She studied the room slowly, paying attention to every detail. Her eyes fell on the far corner. Behind a stack of crates, she noticed a faint outline of another hidden panel. It was smaller than the first and almost invisible in the dim light. Maria knelt and pressed her hand against it. To her relief, the panel moved slightly. She pushed gently, and it opened to reveal a narrow space, just large enough for one person to enter. Maria shined her flashlight inside. The space was filled with shelves holding old journals, letters, and photographs. She realized that this must be the final section Samuel and Clara had prepared. Carefully, she took down one journal at a time. The pages were worn and fragile, but the writing was clear. The journals told a story of the couple's life, their hopes, and their fears. Maria read aloud quietly to Leo. The journals described how Samuel and Clara had built the bunker to protect their family memories during uncertain times. They wrote about their love for the cabin, the forest, and the simple life they cherished. They wanted to ensure that someone who understood the value of memories could find and preserve them. One letter caught Maria's attention. It was addressed to the finder. The letter explained that the final object in the bunker was the most important. It was a small wooden box, locked and marked with the same symbol as the metal token they had found earlier. Inside the box was a key that opened a hidden compartment in the cabin itself. This compartment, they explained, contained a final message and a keepsake that summarized their story and love for the place. Maria carefully opened the small wooden box. Inside was a delicate key carved from wood and polished smooth. Her hands trembled slightly. She had been chosen to uncover this secret. She looked at Leo and smiled. "This is the last piece, Leo. Samuel and Clara wanted us to find this." They followed the instructions in the letter and searched the cabin. Behind the fireplace, Maria found a small hidden compartment. She inserted the wooden key and the compartment clicked open. Inside was a small chest containing photographs, letters, and a simple carved figurine. The letters spoke of family, hope, and the beauty of living simply. The figurine was a small representation of the cabin itself. Maria hugged Leo tightly. They wanted someone to remember them, Leo. To understand that love, care, and memories are important. Leo nodded. "We found it, Maria. We helped them." Maria carefully replaced the chest in the compartment and closed it. She knew that the secrets of the bunker and the cabin were now safe. They had completed the story Samuel and Clara had started. For Maria and Leo, the experience had been more than discovery. It had been a lesson about patience, care, and the importance of understanding the past. As they stepped outside, the sunlight filtered through the forest, warm and bright. Maria looked at the cabin and felt a deep connection to the place. The bunker had been a secret for many years, but now it had found its rightful guardians. Maria knew that the cabin and its hidden spaces would remain safe, cherished, and remembered. Together, she and Leo walked to the edge of the forest, feeling a sense of peace. The cabin was no longer just an old building in the woods. It was a home of stories, secrets, and love. And Maria understood that the past and the present could come together, bringing life and memory to a hidden place that had waited patiently to be discovered.